Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is episode 6. We're still on the topic of wealth creation, thanks to Aladdin Ganabegovich. Again, he had lots of questions on the whole topics of money and things like that. And so in the last episode, I broke down really steps 1 and 2 in creating wealth. And so this is where it gets a little bit more debatable. Again, I'm not sure how debatable mastering the 2 wealth drivers is. Good luck finding a different formula other than that. But steps 3 and 4, especially steps 3, I think this is where people like Robert Kiyosaki, if he were to watch something like this, he'd be shaking his head and be like, no, that's not what I am teaching you guys. And listen, I'm a big fan of Robert Kiyosaki. I've read all of his books. I followed many of his practical pieces of advice, especially when it comes to buying real estate. I mean, his stuff is gold. The part I have a hard time wrapping my mind around with is how to get rich off other people's money, like how to really leverage debt. It's not part of my formula. And so, again, I don't know if there is a right or a wrong, but I thought it's worth pointing out to you that, a guy like Robert Kiyosaki would disagree with me, and he's a lot smarter than I am. When it comes to finances and stuff like that, he's kind of the master of it. But hey, this is just what works for me. Again, the questions are asked. I get a lot of questions around finances and wealth creation. So that's kind of why I'm breaking this up into 2 videos here for you guys. So I'm going to dive into steps 3 and 4. And again, just thought I'd let you know on the front end there is some debate on this. So just jumping right into it. Step 3, what do I do once I have money? What do I do with the money? I've mentioned in, I believe, episode 2, I asked the question once I had $100,000 in the bank. I remember hey, I got $100,000. I've never had $100,000 before. I'm a 6-digit guy now. I can say I've got $100,000. What do you do with your money? I called all the richest people that I knew, and I asked them, hey, so what do you do with money? And I did not like the answers that I was hearing. Hey, Jamie, do you have a mortgage? I'm like, well, yeah. Pay it off. Pay it off? No, I already own a house. What I want to know is if I take $100,000 and I dump it into something, how does it turn into $1 million next year? I was looking for the golden trick. And so it was shocking how conservative, I guess that's probably the word to use. They were financially conservative. I heard a lot of this. Jamie, I play Las Vegas in my business. My business is Vegas. There's gambling happening all over to make money. There's gambling happening to make money. So once I get the money, no, I don't need any more gambling. I got enough stress gambling it in business. So once I've got it, no, man, I basically stick it under my bed, under my mattress, and I'm going to give you boring stuff. But I kind of kept hearing that over and over again. Once you've got the money, I hear a lot of conservative things with that. So I don't think that's going to be real popular. But the first thing that I do with money is debt elimination. It's the monthly recurring debts, I think, that just keep people strangled financially, that there's too big of a nut to crack, I get too big of expenses. Can you bring those expenses down? Hey, paying off the mortgage, getting rid of that debt. How many more options do you have if you don't have that expense anymore? So I've taken this debt elimination thing pretty serious over the years. I've gone as far as calling, Verizon's my cell phone carrier. I'm not going to throw a little commercial in here all of a sudden for Verizon, but I went through the prompting, calling Verizon. My question was, how much do you want so I never get a bill ever again from Verizon? I basically get, I'm not going to say free because I'm going to have to pay for it, but no more bills, no more monthly recurring charges, MRCs. So again, once you've got the money, I want to eliminate MRCs. I went from one person to the next person to the next person, and eventually I got to the answer of we don't have that plan. Oh, that's too bad, because I'd like that plan. Is it 10,000? Would you like me to write a check for 10 grand and I never get a bill? But it'd be nice. Again, if I can, you guys got it in the last, I drew this out. When your passive income exceeds your cost of living, you win. How do I increase my passive income? And how do I decrease my cost of living? I want those two wealth drivers, if you will. I want to exercise those. So what do I do once I have the money? First thing I want to do, I want to eliminate debt. Okay, I want to get into debt elimination. You have student loans, pay off the student loans. You've got a car note, pay off the car note. And again, a guy like Robert Kiyosaki would disagree, and I think that's fine. Then I really have 4 avenues that I go down when it comes to, okay, once you got money and you're eliminating debt, okay, what else do you do? I just have 4, you can call them boring channels if you want, but they work. They create passive income, which is what you're looking for. Property. I like property. I like people paying rent, especially on a property that doesn't have any more mortgage associated with it, right? So can I reduce the debt and can I increase the revenue? I mean, rental property. That's one channel, rental property. Businesses that don't require you as an operator. Well, like, what do you mean? Parking lot, automatic. There's no attendees there in a lot of these parking lots. Just a big piece of property that you put a structure on. There was an investment made, and now the cash register is open. I hop on toll roads around here, living in Orange County. I'm like, man, who's the investors that put together this wonderful toll road that never has traffic? They take pictures of my license plate. There's nobody manning operations. It's just cash flow coming in. I mean, the name of the game is cash flow. The market, putting money in the market. Listen, there's dividend opportunities where, annually you'll get paid out on a lot of these investments. You can watch your portfolio grow and cash it out, defer taxes later, but love the market. I mean, rich people are in the market, man. I mean, that's where it's at. And the fourth tool that I use is insurance. I mean, talk to anybody in the financial industry and they'll tell you, wealthy people use insurance. They don't just do 401k plans and then just get taxed so heavily once you retire. Like, no, you can use insurance as an instrument to avoid paying a lot of taxes. And as your wealth grows, you've sheltered yourself from paying crazy income tax. So I'm a big fan of buying whole life insurance as well too. So those are the 4 things outside of debt elimination, right? So again, debt elimination, get rid of stuff. And then as you're accumulating, more and more, assets, you got property, you got insurance, you've got the market, and you've got businesses that don't require any energy from you, non-operational businesses. And so those are my tips once you've actually got the money. All right, so here comes step 4. Okay. Step 4 is tap into the power of compound interest. Okay. Tap into the power of compound interest. Just start off with a quote from Warren Buffett. Okay. He says that his wealth comes from a combination of 3 things: living in America. And he always says, if you bet on America, then you bet on the stock market. Lucky genes and compound interest. So let's talk a little bit about compound interest. So this is probably worth Googling. I think it's worth your time to Google Theo Johnson UPS. I can't remember if he worked at UPS or USPS, but you kind of catch my drift. It's something like that. The part I do know, I do remember the number. He never made more than $14,000 in a year. His biggest W-2 was 14 grand. Okay. So he was, again, think of the mastering the 2 wealth drivers. I mean, he never was great at generating money. However, at the time of his retirement, when he retired, his net worth was over $70 million. He had over $70 million of net worth by the time he retired. So that's worth studying. Like, okay, how'd you do it? Very simple. A friend of his said, hey, Theo, you have to stop being a consumer and you have to start being an owner/investor. You want to cross that line. Don't just be a consumer, taking up space, consuming. Become an owner, become an investor. Okay, well, how do I do that? And he says, okay, well, let's just say the government imposed a new tax. Certainly not going to get political with anybody here on this video, but let's just say there's a new tax and they increased your taxes by 20%. You'd be yelling, you'd be kicking, you'd be screaming, you'd be rallying the troops for the next election, but at the end of the day, you'd find a way to carve out 20% and give it to the government. So develop that mindset and take 20% and you need to stick it into being an owner and investor. Stick it into the market. And so all that happened was the power of compound interest. As you've got your first deposit, it then goes to another amount. Then you got that deposit goes to your interest starts making interest, which starts making interest. There's something called the rule of 72. I think I learned this in, 11th grade mathematics or something like that. The rule of 72. How long does it take your investment to double? That's the rule of 72. So you take whatever the interest rate is, let's say you get 8% interest, divide that into 72, and that's how many years it'll take to double. So 8% interest divided into 72 is 9. So if you took 100 grand and you put it into an investment that gave you 8%, in 9 years you now have 200 grand. You take that 200 grand, you're still getting 8%, you double it, it takes 9 more years to double it, so now you're at 400 grand. So it took you 18 years to go from 100 to 400, double that again in 9 years, you're at 800. I mean, you catch the drift of compounding interest. So really, we're all looking for opportunities to you get in early. I remember as a youngster, I watched a Susie Orman thing late night on TV or something. I'm like, what's this girl talking about? She's like, if you get into the market at, let's say, 35, she just gave some analogy and just did the math. Let's say you start in the market at the age of 35 and you're getting X% interest and here's how much you put in. And by the time you hit retirement, you got about 300 grand. So again, I'll spare you all the math, just catch the point of this. One guy started at 35 and by the time he's, retired, he's got 300 grand. Another guy starts at the age of 25. It's the same amount you're putting in. You just started 10 years earlier. Well, that guy's got $1.3 million to play with at the time of retirement versus the guy that started at 35. And her point in drawing out that math is just listen, if you look at the power of compound interest, you're going to want to do something with your money now. You're going to want to invest it now. Become an owner investor, not just a consumer. So that's it. Those are the tips really on wealth creation. Again, a little shorter here with this particular episode than the last one, but 4 drivers in total. 4 steps. Start by dreaming big. Know what it is. Articulate what you want. Have a dream board, something like that. But this is the fun part. You get to dream a little bit. You get to be ambitious. You get the blood going in your body. 2, master the 2 wealth drivers. How do I increase my revenue? And how do I decrease the money going out? Number 3, again, what do I invest my money into? Big fan of debt elimination. And again, those other 4 areas you can put your money into. And then step 4, tap into the power of compound interest. So that's what I have for you guys. Aladdin, I hope that helped you out a lot, and many others that have been asking a lot about money questions. And again, feel free to disagree. It's perfectly fine. Again, Robert Kiyosaki would say, dude, you have to get rich on other people's money. Putting money into savings is not good. I mean, say all that stuff. Just, I don't have the stomach for that, Robert. I'm sorry. I just don't have the stomach. So that's all I have for you guys. Have yourselves a great day. I'll talk to you soon.